Hey guys, welcome back to another episode from Red Sky University. We're going to go through setting up a MariaDB server. Alright, so the first process that we're going to go through here is we are going to SSH into our server. Alright, see that we're on here. Alright, the first process, we're going to make sure that we have our apt updated, and we're going to make sure it is upgraded. This will get us the latest and greatest of packages, make sure everything's up to date, we have access to everything, we're good to go. Alright, so the next thing that we're going to do is we're going to actually install MariaDB. We use MariaDB as opposed to MySQL. MariaDB is a forked database from MySQL on the day that Oracle announced that they were going to buy MySQL. So this is the open source version that is widely maintained and the standard here. So, alright, let's get this installed. MariaDB server. He's going to go through this thing. This installs everything from apt. The next process that we're going to go through is setting up a secure installation. And what the secure installation is going to do is allow us to set passwords for root, kind of remove any test databases and anything like that that we really want to do. Alright, and then to do this guy, we run our sudo secure installation. Alright, in this case, we don't have a root. This is the first time that we've done it. So if we read the prompt, it just tells us, okay, push enter, which is exactly what we want to do. Do we want to switch to the Unix sockets? Sounds great. Do we want to change to the root password? Absolutely, because we don't have one. So I'm going to create a password here. I'm going to paste that guy in. He's going to ask us to re-enter that guy. All right. Do we want to remove anonymous users? Yes, we do. Disallow remotely root logging in? Yeah, absolutely. Remove all the test databases? We sure do. And reload the privileges or flush privileges we'll kind of get to later. So that's it. Now we have MariaDB on our system. So we can check that out by doing a MySQL. We can do help. Awesome, it's there. So the next process that we're going to go through is, now that we have it installed, what we want to do is we want to actually log in. We're going to log in as our root user. Well, it looks like I got disconnected from my server. Get back in there. Okay, so now I'm back on my server. We are going to log in to MySQL. To log in as MySQL from a command line terminal on our server, we're going to say MySQL u is our user. We're going to say root, and then we're going to say password. We hit enter. It's going to ask us for our password. We paste that guy in, and now we're into MySQL. It's that easy to get it up and going. From this point, we are in a MySQL terminal. So we can say, show databases, and that's going to give us any of our output. We don't happen to have databases. Make sure you terminate your queries. There's our default databases that exist for MySQL. All right, so the next thing that we're going to do, now that we have access, it's on the server, we need to create a new user. We don't want to log in with root everywhere. We disabled access for root remotely, so we have to have a user that we can use and that we can connect to from PHP Storm. So we are going to create our dev user. So we're going to say create user dev. We are going to have him as a wildcard. So what that means, we can also do a localhost one, but that only allows us to log in from localhost, meaning on the server directly. So we're going to say that guy. So he's wildcard. We're going to identified by, and this is where we do our password or our dev user. So we have this guy, paste in our password that we're going to have, make sure we terminate our statements that we execute. Next thing we need to do is we need to grant privileges. So we are going to say grant all on star dot star. So the way that this schema works, it is the database table name. So if I wanted to only allow this person access to the MySQL everything from our MySQL right here, that's how I would reduce the scope or refine the scope on this specific user to only be able to have access to this specific database and whatever tables I want. But in this case, because this is my user, I'm going to log in with pretty much everything. We're going to grant him all privileges. So he's in effect a super user again. So then we're going to say to whoever we said it was going to be. So which is our dev user on everything. All right, so now we have a user, which is great. And then we are going to say flush privileges. So those are reloaded, and we should be able to get in with our dev user. We can actually test this. If we exit, MySQL tells us bye. We can log in with user dev, copy that password again with our password. All right, and perfect. So our dev user logs in locally, which is great, exactly what we want to do. The next process, at this point, we can, again, show our databases, make sure we're in, we have access to everything. We want to create a database. Create a database, Tanner's test. All right, awesome. There's our database. We do our show databases again, and we can see Tanner's test. If I want to go in here and start creating tables and everything, I can say use Tanner's test. Our database has changed. I can see now that I have Tanner's test database. So from in here, I can say show tables, and I can show my tables. I don't have any tables, which is great. Exactly what I expect. I shouldn't have any tables. We just created it. All right, we're going to remember Tanner's test as our database. We're going to exit here. Now, in order to allow access in MySQL, in MariaDB, externally, what we have to do is we actually have to go in and edit a config file. Now, this thing, it gets forgotten about pretty consistently, but you won't be able to actually connect through PHP Storm if you don't do this process. So this lives in our etc directory. So we need to go into etc. We need to go into MySQL. We need to go into our MariaDB conf. See this guy? We have all of our different stuff. We have Galera configs. We have all the configs that we may or may not need. So inside of here, I need to modify our 50 server config. All right, so we're going to go down to these, the bind address. All right, so 127.0.0.1 is our local server, our local host, which is not what we want. We want this guy to be accessible everywhere. The 0.0.0 binding address gives us access anywhere to our system. So we're going to do that guy. Now we need to system control restart MySQL. So he's going to restart that process with that new config. Okay, the next thing that we need to do is we need to make sure that we can actually get into this guy externally. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to open up a project here, doesn't matter which one, and I'm just going to add a new database source. All right, so we go in here, we add MariaDB. All right, the way that this works, most of you should know how this works, but we need to just make sure we have all the right stuff. So host, he lives on my server, not on my local host. So I need to paste in my server IP. I'm going to log in to MySQL as dev. I need to copy my dev user password, paste that in. You shouldn't have to modify port. MySQL default port is 3306. We can verify that we have those ports open with a sudo ufw status. All right, you can see 3306 is open. So our port is there, it is open. We should be able to get in here. Our database is Tanner's test, I believe is what we did. So we can test our connection, and we could not get in. Unknown database. Tanner's test, I believe is what we did there, yeah. Perfect, all right, succeeded. So we can apply, let him do his thing. We hit OK, and boom, Tanner's test now exists. It's the same thing. It's synced with our server, the database up there. From this point, we can start adding tables. You can also add tables from the command line. Just to kind of show you, if I wanted to create a default user table, all right, we'll give it a column. We always say big int 20. Just set this guy up real quick as a boilerplate. Give it our primary key. We would say name varchar 100. We care that you have a name. You're going to add a primary email varchar 100. You have to have that guy, and we'll throw in a password varchar 100 and a token field. Again, just super boilerplate just to get that going. We execute this guy. Notice we're going to synchronize with our server version. We have our tables for user. All right, and just to kind of show this, let's go back in to MySQL. So MySQL user dev password, paste in our password. We can use Tanner's test and show tables, and boom, there's our user table. So at this point, I can make our queries directly from here, the exact same way we write our SQL statements in our code. So I could say select all from user, right? We don't have anything. Again, just to kind of prove this concept out for us, you can come in here. Again, you can add them through the command line down here, but who doesn't like a little bit of a UI? So say user one, I want Tanner at redscalatech.io. Password, it doesn't even matter because it's not a real person. Token doesn't matter because it's not a real person. All right, we have that guy in there. Now let's rerun our select. Boom, there is Tanner. So that's how easy it is to set up a database. Pretty quick, pretty slick. Big focuses are not to forget your config files, as that will bite you in the butt. So anyway, hopefully this was helpful. Let us know if there's any comments that we can do to help improve. And anyway, we'll see you guys in the next one. Thanks.